Welcome to our Tuesday message here at Salem, dear friends. Bob Dylan sung "The times they are a changing." Perhaps today that's to a point of no return, and I sense a lot of fatigue both in our members and the general mood of the country, and we're trying to do the business to continue the business of the church, but outside factors seem to keep interrupting us, and we're already stressed with the pandemic, and now the unrest of the country kind of weighs heavily on our minds. But in that is an opportunity to serve and do things in new ways, and we are kind of making things up as we go along. There's no playbook for this, and we travel these unknown paths, unsure of which direction to go. But we trust that God will lead us in a direction. It seems like, once the decisions that we made were pretty much a slam dunk, but now we have to consider all kinds of different things, from weddings to funerals, our different situations. We have both the Jesse Smith, Fran Punderson, and Gordon Hesselroth funerals waiting to occur at church. We're still waiting for a time we can gather together. But in other ways, we can find new directions. And we are going forth with the virtual Vacation Bible School. So if Keith Olson calls you, say yes to him, because he's working hard to get a good VBS program put together. And thank you, Keith, for that. Of course, our future is always out of our control for the most part, but there are some things we can do. We are going to move forward with choosing names to put on the mission exploration team, and that team will put together the mission site profile of the congregation. In terms of worship, we've had discussions about reopening the building. The COVID task force has advised against that at this point in time, so we're taking their recommendations. They're listening to the experts. There's a letter from Louise that you can take a look and see more of the details. We investigated drive-in worship. Our parking lot is not very conducive to that. We weren't sure if that would be a very effective manner to worship in, but we are going to do outdoor worship. We tried a shot at it last weekend, but it was really a short turnaround time, so we were not able to pull that off. But July 5th at 9:30, our normal worship time, will be a time that we can do an outdoor worship. Now, there's going to be many stipulations on that worship, and the COVID task force meets on Wednesday, and we'll be determining those this week. But please be aware that if the weather turns sour on us, we will not be able to go into the building as a backup. So it'll be like a Twins game. It'll just be a rain delay till the next week. We will try to inform people on how the weather is behaving. We'll be in touch with you on that Sunday morning. Michelle always sends that email blast out. If we have to cancel, we'll send that out with that email blast. But we still have to put a lot of details together to figure that out. A lot of logistics have to be performed to make sure that this happens in a safe manner for those who want to attend. So that is the primary news. I think that we are looking forward to future ministries in the congregation. I know that there's a lot of concern about our racial indifference in the ELCA in particular. Maybe I didn't say that quite right. It's not indifference, but we are also known as the whitest denomination in the United States. An interesting comment. I did not know that before it was pointed out. So I'm going to read to you a couple of things. First off is a reading from Martin Luther King Jr. He writes, "I once heard a man, then a young professor, tell of being on a plane in the late 60s and finding himself next to Dr. Martin Luther King. He introduced himself to Dr. King, and as their journey progressed, he revealed to Dr. King that he was active in civil rights struggle on his own campus. Because of his work in the racial struggle, He had become alienated from his father. He told Dr. King how his father could not understand him and how they'd grown apart. "What can I do," he asked Dr. King, "to raise the consciousness of my father, to make my father see that he's a racist and all that his pious talk about loving black people is just a lie?" Dr. King put his hand on the angry young man's hand and said, "Your father is doing the best he can. He has not had many of your educational opportunities which your father has provided for you. As a Christian, you must be patient with him and love him." Here ends his reading. And in leaving you today, I share with you Luther's prayer. This comes from the Small Catechism. This is his meaning for "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Luther prays, "O God, your good and gracious will is surely done without our prayer. But we ask in this prayer that it may be done also among us. Hinder and defeat every evil scheme and purpose of the devil, the world, and our sinful self, which would prevent us from keeping your name holy and which would oppose the coming of your kingdom. May your will be done as you strengthen our faith and keep us firm in your word as long as we live through Jesus Christ. Amen." So this week, our prayer is that God's will is done in our lives and we are strengthened in our faith to do so. Thanks for listening. Look forward to preparing our prayer service for Thursday, and we recorded our worship services also on that day. This week, the sermon text will be Romans 6, the first 11 verses. So I encourage you to take a look at that, Paul's letter to the Romans. Have a delightful week in God's name.